Aden Holloway leaves Auburn, goes to Alabama. I can't remember many transfers of note making that jump. It's a new era. How big is this, and how excited should Alabama fans be? And I guess Auburn fans are not going to be that upset with the fact that they really didn't get to see the best of Aden Holloway last year.
No, the time they become upset is when Aden Holloway plays to his potential. And I said last week, I don't think his stock could ever be as low as it is. I think in the transfer rankings, I think he was 64th. And this was a 5-star McDonald's All-American coming to the Plains last year.
Well, I had him at 28 on 24/7 Sports, but different rankings, different places.
Yeah, I think I just saw it at 60. It was either 54th or 64th. Anyway, didn't have the season they thought he would have. He averaged over 20 minutes per game. He came out, played well against Indiana and Baylor once they got into conference play. Just couldn't hit shots. And you just wonder with how different the offense will be with Nate Oats and a bunch of shooters around you, that really opens things up for Aden Holloway.
Yeah, I mean, he was a 30% free three-point shooter. So, he's not going to play a ton at Alabama shooting 30% unless he's just off the charts defensively. So, I mean, I'm with Lance. I don't think it really hurts you. I mean, the Auburn fans now are saying, hey, look, addition by subtraction. That's what you say when you lose a player. I get that.
I mean, he was in the portal. He was leaving.
Yeah. Addition by subtraction. And look, I mean, that's what I would expect from the fan base that is losing him. And the Alabama fans are taking a victory lap because they took, in their mind, a player Auburn wanted. That's what I would expect from their fan base, right? So the truth will show when we tip this thing off in November, what kind of role does Aden Holloway play for this team? At the guard spot, I don't see him getting playing time in front of Mark Sears and Latrell Wrightsell.
Yeah,
if Sears comes back,
we got to see what happens with Mark Sears down the road here, right? Because if Sears comes back, Wrightsell's good at both ends of the floor. That roster has the number 7 recruiting class coming in. They brought in 2 perimeter players from Pepperdine in South Florida already. And that was my point when I joined Little T on Uncorked, as she does, reacts instantly to an Auburn story. We were in the infield at Talladega, and we went live. And the first thing I said was, he better have his act together on the court and off the court, because on that roster in Tuscaloosa, playing time is not guaranteed.
No, nor was it at Auburn, right?
And nor it was not. And, there were games where Trey Donaldson got more minutes and other people got more minutes. He has to get his act together, or he could miss a couple of games here or there, because Nate Oats doesn't have a problem sitting people when if you're not bought in on team atmosphere. Well, Nick Pringle took a flight to the NCAA tournament with Taylor Corn.
But again, I think you're buying low here, and I think the upside is a lot. And if you get what you saw, the potential in high school, Aden Holloway, I mean, this could be a massive get for Alabama. We'll see. I think it's kind of, we're going to take a flyer on him. We've seen his potential. I would assume Nate recruited this kid out of high school. I would assume
I think just about anybody wanted him, right?
He was a McDonald's All-American. I think he was a top 3 recruit. And that this is NFL draft week, right? So how many times do you see people who get drafted in the first round? And I tried to make the analogy with relationships in the Uncorked version here.
Oh, can I hear that?
And I'll try it for you.
Yeah, okay. Let's
LT helps me with this here because I think he understands this.
Okay, interesting.
There is that guy that every girl thinks that they can fix his problem, right? Okay. They see him.
The troubled, the bad boy, right?
They see him in a relationship, and they're like, he won't cheat on me, or he won't be that guy with me. I can fix him. And I think when you've got potential, like Aden Holloway, or a big first-round draft pick, those guys get chances, because those people always go back to what he was at one point potential-wise and say, oh, I can unlock him. I can fix him. I can erase all of his problems on and off the court, and I can make him whole. I can make him the McDonald's All-American player again. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. You wonder, though, how much is self-inflicted. Look, Aden lost his confidence, obviously, during the season at some point. But when you look at his last 8 games, 3 games he didn't score. In the other 5 games, all under double figures. And you wonder when I don't know, was he a guy that was pouting and wasn't really getting the minutes he wanted and felt like he wasn't contributing to the level he should be? Well, he just seemed to disappear at times.
You just go to his exit conversation. Was it on Twitter or Instagram where he He was what was the quote? I was promised a dream, and I don't have it right in front of me. I can go pull it up later on. But he talked about he was promised one thing and didn't feel like he got that when he got to Auburn as the season went on.
I would think that Auburn expected to have a McDonald's All-American that was going to come out and score 20 points a game. You know, I mean, that works both ways, right? I mean, the guy got plenty of minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I saw him take plenty of shots, and if he's making his shots, then that dream becomes a reality, right?
If you make shots, you don't come off the court.
Yeah. I mean, kid didn't make shots.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I don't think this is the last we'll ever see of this. I mean,
Troy says in conference he shot 19% behind the arc. That is awful.
That's not going to get him playing time in Tuscaloosa for sure.
In conference, he shot 31% from the field.
From the field, yes. Yeah. He wasn't getting playing time in Auburn for that. He's not going to get playing time in Tuscaloosa for that. That's right. That has to change for him.
That's right. Because if you look at the scholarship players right now at Alabama, if they all come back, Grant Nelson, who still isn't, officially out of the NBA conversation, Mark obviously has declared for the NBA, leaving open the door to come back. So there's still maybe some room on the roster that you're replacing a couple of guys. But right now, if everybody comes back that could come back, it's a crowded roster in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, but I think it's a good investment for Nate and Alabama, because I would assume that Aden, where his stock is, maybe $100,000, maybe not even $100,000. And this kid could come out and be tremendous for you.
Okay, hold that NIL thought. Okay, well, let's just go ahead and get to it here. So you brought that up because let's do the Seth Davis thing here.
Okay,
I mean, because we all know,
I haven't seen this.
We all know that Nate Oats, when Kentucky was kicking the tires, didn't want any more money for himself. One thing he wanted was what? A little
NIL money and some for his assistants.
A little bit more NIL money.
And practice facility.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. But Kentucky was a big job.
But NIL money was one thing, right? We all heard that, right? Yeah. Hashtag Yay Alabama. Greg Burns says, hey, kept our coach. Got to keep NIL. Everybody done it.
That was Greg's first tweet about it.
Seth Davis throws this tweet out. Huge loss. This is Seth Davis, CBS, if you don't know who he is. Huge loss for Auburn, compounded by his decision to play for Bama. He is well positioned for a classic sophomore breakout season. I don't know the details, always a cautionary phrase. I don't know the details, but can safely assume Bama had a lot more NIL money to offer.
Well, let's diagram the sentence the way we used to do in school, right?
Well, I pointed out the pop that popped for me, Brown. I don't know the details.
Yeah.
Well, yes. That's one. I mean, I don't know that you could qualify this as a huge loss for Auburn. I think that's a bit of an overstatement.
I think you can't right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Auburn is in excellent shape.
I mean, based on expectations, I would give Holloway a D for first season.
I'm just looking at
and
I'm just looking at what Auburn's starting five will be next year. And by the way, Aden Holloway was not going to be in that starting five had he stayed at Auburn. Now maybe he could have played his way in there, but I don't think in Bruce Pearl's mind, Aden Holloway was in the starting five for Auburn.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think so. I personally don't think so. But, I mean, Bruce Pearl gets paid a lot more to coach Auburn than I do. So,
I just know right now the guards that won the SEC championship, Aden Holloway's at Alabama, Trey Donaldson's at Michigan, and Katie Johnson's at George Mason. So
what you hope for is if you're an Auburn fan, that for whatever reason the kid was a bad apple and he ruins Alabama's minds, right? I mean, that's what you're hoping for if you're an Auburn fan. If the kid's a bad apple, he's a bad apple there too, and it's going to ruin the bunch. And again, it is addition by subtraction.
I would think Nate got in front of that.
You would hope. Well, you would hope.
That was
but
my
again,
whole.
It is risk-free.
That was my relationship comparison there because we've all heard, from Auburn folks that some issues off the court, dealing with some personal things all year long. Some of it became attitude and confidence and all of that, and that was the whole. You're willing to take the upside, and feel like you can deal with the problems that have happened in the past. You feel like you can correct those. We'll see if that happens.
Well, and I would think that NIL fluctuates. Like if you're not performing up to a certain standard, then hey, we can figure this out. We can also. If you would have had an unbelievable season, he probably would have gone to the NBA. But if you have an unbelievable season, then we pay you more.
Yeah.
If you've had a crap season, based on expectations, we pay you less. So that's why I think Alabama's getting him at bottom basement price right now.
Here's what I think when it comes to NIL, back to the Seth Davis tweet. it's not like a salary cap in the NFL, right? Where, say, one school or that everybody has $10 million, or one school only has $4 million and one school has $10 million. I feel like the NIL works like this, that, man, we've got to get another $800,000 or we're going to lose our quarterback. And at some point, somebody picks up the phone and calls somebody, and somebody says, well, I don't want to lose our quarterback. I'll give you $400,000. And then somebody else says, well, I'll kick in 100. And then somebody says, I'll kick in 300. All of a sudden, our NIL has 800,000. So I don't know how you can say one school has more NIL money than the other, right? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, but I think they do, though.
Well, I mean, you do
Yeah.
in the general term. But
Right. I mean, we all know that Texas has got more money than Texas Tech.
That's right. But if it comes down to, man, we need to keep this player, or we can get this player if we could give him $800,000. Well, then you call Mr. Deep Pockets, who calls Mr. Medium Pockets, a couple of Mr. Medium Pockets, and you see if you can get that money.
Or do you ever go to one of your receivers and say, hey, look, to keep your quarterback, I need 50 back from you?
I'm going to say.
I mean, we're talking contracts. I mean, certain people do restructure their deals. I think that would be more difficult.
Yeah, that would be more difficult. I just think that NIL money that's available is a moving target. Obviously, Alabama coming off the Final Four and Kentucky kicking the tires, Nate probably has a little bit more in his coffers right now without having to make a phone call.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, because it was just a recently big topic for him.
I mean, this was already
but I don't know how much
heated as I could see Alabama-Auburn basketball has ever been, where the rivalry is right now. So just another layer to it.
I just don't know how much NIL played into this. But I assume in everything now in college, money does play a little.
Well, if you're Aiden, though, real quick, Brown, if they come to you and they're like, hey, you know, we gave you, I'm just throwing out numbers, we gave you $300,000 last year, you played $100,000, we're going to pull you back. I mean, that would upset a player in
It
itself.
probably would. I mean, you know, I think a more reasonable guess than NIL on the Auburn end is Auburn went out and got J.P. Pegues. And Aiden looked at that and said, I'm not playing in front of him, and I'm not playing in front of Denver Jones as a starter, right? So either Bruce Pearl flat out told him, you're not playing in front of J.P. Pegues, you're not playing in front of Denver Jones, or he was just smart enough to do the math and say, I'm not playing in front of those guys, so I'm out. Now, where the NIL could come into play for Alabama would be Mark Sears is still an unknown, right?
That's right. I feel like the coaches probably know where Mark's leaning.
I think everybody feels like Mark Sears. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. That's a dangerous word. But I think most people feel like Mark Sears plays at Alabama next year.
I would think so, yes.
I'm not 100% sure of that.
So but you're a warrior by nature. So
I am.
Yeah, it's Alabama G League or
Europe.
He's going to transfer out somewhere else.
I mean, you don't know.
I don't know
what Mark Sears is hearing, right?
I don't.
And you don't know if Mark Sears says, man, my stock may not ever be higher. If I was in the Final Four, I was second team All-American. So you don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Sears might be like, if I am going to be one of the 60 guys drafted, I don't care if I'm in the second round. I just want somebody to sign me. I know it's not a guaranteed contract, but I'm good enough that I can go earn my way onto this roster. I don't think it's great advice, but all it takes is one person to tell him that's what's going to happen.
And we've seen people make choices off of what one person or a group of people have told them in the past. So I don't think anything's 100%.
No, it's not 100%. That's why it's backed off from everybody. I just think the consensus opinion is that he will be back in Tuscaloosa, but you don't know 100%. So now on the NIL front, if he comes back, that is not going to be cheap. Mark Sears.
I mean, people are talking about right now 800, 850.
For Mark Sears?
That's what I said. I mean,
what do you think he could top out at in Europe? Let's just say he doesn't get drafted first round and he says G League or Europe, I'm going to try Europe.
The best European leagues can pay him over $1 million a year.
Yeah, but I would think early on he's making a couple $100,000. I mean, his best move is come back Bama.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. Once you go Europe, it is hard to come back to the NBA, isn't it? I mean, how many guys do that? How many guys take the European route and then they're like, NBA, you know what? We screwed up on this kid. We need to go get him.
Very rarely.
Yeah, you don't
because
see it.
What's keeping Mark Sears?
In fact, I used to have a T-shirt. Once you go Europe, you don't go back.
What's keeping Mark Sears out of the league?
His height.
Is he going to grow in Europe?
I don't think so.
I don't
He's
think
not
so
going to
either.
grow anymore at Alabama.
He's
We
not,
can work
you're
it
right.
out. Again, I've got some inches. I'll sell him.
Yeah, I know.
That's not a good T-shirt.
Lance is
It's not,
Lance made
I
that
think I
offer.
saw it at Talladega. Though.
Lance made that offer to one intern, and then we had one fellow employee that just flat out told Lance, if I had your height, I'd be in the NFL.
Yeah.
So Lance's height is valuable.
Garrison Brooks is who we're talking about. I would assume he's in Europe, or is he G League?
I need to catch up with Garrison. You know, it's a failure on my part. We didn't have him on before Bama, North Carolina. That was a complete failure on my part. Now I apologize.
It's a team failure, Brownie. I
Nope.
could easily have
Somebody
said,
could have. I mean, anybody
I
could have stepped in. Yes,
Could have said
easily have
something.
said,
But
hey,
ultimately,
Didn't even think about it till
in that
just now.
aspect, it falls under my purview, so it's my fault. I'm not going to blame anybody else. I should have had him on. I know he was doing some North Carolina stuff on TV. But I mean, he was in the same boat. He had a skill set that worked in the NBA. His problem was it only worked at the position where he was too small to play.
Okay, so I threw out with Sears. I thought the number would be about 800 a couple of weeks ago. I talked to somebody that very credible, and they said the number's 250. And
250?
yeah, I was blown away when I heard that. I think it's more.
yeah. Well, being discussed as one of the greatest players in Alabama history.
Yeah, which, I mean, if you're just doing standalone seasons, it's got to be a top 3 season.
Yeah, because they went to the Final Four.